Hi everyone, my name is Hannah and I'm here to talk about backgrounds. This is going to be a four-part series. I'm hoping to upload it weekly, probably every Friday. I know a lot of people find backgrounds to be kind of intimidating or overwhelming. It really requires the ability to draw a lot of different types of objects and a lot of different textures. Today we're going to talk about one of the best ways to learn about drawing those different things, and that's using references. First, I just kind of want to talk briefly about why backgrounds are important. Why should we care about backgrounds? So let's get started. So this is a scene from Scooby-Doo. There are a few things that we should notice here. First of all, this is a really dark color palette. I'm going to make my red just a little bit brighter. So this is a really dark color palette. We have the lightest color, which is this blue, and it's still kind of a mid-range color. Let me show you on the color wheel. If we look at this blue is right around this kind of mid-range area. It's not like over here in the light part. The other thing is, look at all these angular shapes that we have going on here. Whole lot of pointy stuff happening in here. And we've got really dark shadows covering a lot of areas of this work. So when you're thinking about the type of feeling that this piece conveys, it's very kind of scary, kind of foreboding. We've got this scary looking house barn thingy. I'm not really sure what it is. And now let's contrast that with this picture. So in this picture, we've got a much lighter palette. We've got these kind of pastel, desaturated colors. This is a scene from Snow White, by the way. You might be able to tell because of the 7 dwarfs, but I guess there's only like 3 1/4 in this picture. Anyway, this is a scene from Snow White. We have these pastel, desaturated colors, a lot of warmer tones with these kind of orange, green, brown colors. And I also want to note that these shapes are a lot rounder than we saw in the last picture. We've also got these kind of soft lighting, no dramatic hard shadows going on here. This gives kind of a much more peaceful, calm sense than we saw in the last picture. So backgrounds are really one of your best storytelling tools when it comes to drawing a scene. This is kind of what's going to set the mood of your piece and inform the viewer about the way you want them to feel. And so now that we've talked a little bit about why backgrounds are important, let's get into what this episode is really about, which is using references and choosing the best references. So I always use references. Usually I use multiple references for every piece, but for now we're just going to stick to one. Today I'm going to be doing a study. That's when you just use one reference. And I want to choose a reference that's going to help me create the best artwork that I can. So let's look at this image. It's got these really bright, oversaturated colors, dramatic lighting. Look how dramatic the sunshine is. This is not a good reference photo. This is bad. Usually, really cool, interesting, dramatic photos make bad references. If you're gonna choose a reference and you're in doubt about what to pick, pick something that's boring. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but this is kind of what's gonna give you the best artwork. Now let's look at this picture. This picture is a much better choice to use as a reference. It's got this kind of nice little asymmetrical composition with these 3 trees here. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about composition here in this series. There are a lot of video tutorials like on YouTube and other places where people talk about composition much better than I can. But it's just a nice thing to note about this picture in particular. The colors here are nice, but they're not super punchy. They're not too in your face, oversaturated. It's not super dramatic. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece for my study. I'm going to speed up the video as I kind of work through it. And I'm going to talk to you guys some more about the way that I use references and the way that you can use references to benefit you most and help you learn effectively. So when you're doing a study, my advice is to work from a photo and not another piece of artwork. I know a lot of people really believe in master studies. I don't like to do that because I think it's better to work from the raw source material, if you will. A painting or drawing has already been artistically manipulated by the person that made it. So I think while you can kind of take an interest in someone's style and study it and use elements of that for your own work, I don't think that it's in your best interest to use one of their paintings as reference. I think you learn a lot better from using photos as your study material. Anyway, yeah. So for this study, I'm only going to use one brush. I chose something that is hard-edged and has the pressure opacity turned on, but not the pressure size. So if you don't know what that means, it just means that the opacity will vary depending on the amount of pressure that I put with my pen, but the size won't. And I want this brush to have a little bit of texture, but not too much texture. I believe that using one brush really forces you to look at and replicate the shapes that you're drawing, but it won't allow you to get too caught up in the textures and the details. And that's really what this study is about. I want to focus on the big picture shapes, the colors, the feelings of the piece without getting bogged down in the details. We're going to talk about details in rendering next week and also in the episode after that as well. So we'll talk plenty about that kind of stuff. I want to talk about the way that I choose colors. If you see in my Instagram stories, you maybe know that I don't color pick from the photo. I will color pick within my own artwork, but I don't believe in using the color picker tool on the photo. I think that kind of takes away some of the charm of the artwork. So when I choose colors, I kind of try to color pick with my mind, and I'll tell you what that means. I'll look at a spot on the photo and focus on it and kind of think about where would I find this color on the color wheel. Is it saturated? Is it desaturated? Warm, cool, dark, or light? Mostly I'm just eyeballing it, and that's okay. You know, as long as you get within the ballpark with the color, it'll be all right. It doesn't have to be pinpoint accurate like the color picker is. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I also think about relative color. Like, for example, in this picture, I'll say the sky near the top of the photo is darker than the sky lower down. It also has more of a purple hue. So I'll take that color from the lower down sky, I'll move my color wheel more towards the purple, and I'll go a little bit darker and use that for the upper sky. And I'll do that rather than trying to determine the exact color of the pixel in the photo. Both of these techniques are useful, but it's important to kind of find a balance between those when you think about choosing your colors. And now I want to say a really big fat secret about using references that I think a lot of people don't recognize, and that's that it's okay if your painting does not look like your reference. Aside from portraits or like other subjects that need to be recognized, the goal is not to make your painting look like the reference. The goal is to make it look believable. The reference is really there for you to refer to when you need it. Backgrounds in particular are a pretty forgiving subject matter. You can get away with a lot of inaccuracies and mistakes. So you don't really need to put a whole lot of pressure on yourself to make it look exactly like the reference. So my advice to you guys is to find a photo, pick something that you feel fits within your skill level, choose one or two basic brushes and use only those brushes to do this study. Don't worry too much about rendering. Like I said before, we'll talk about that next week. But focus on the shapes, the colors, the general feelings that you want to convey with this picture. And if you post it on Instagram and tag me, popt at popt.ii, I'll be posting everyone's work to my story throughout the week until the next episode comes out. So that's going to wrap it up this time. And I'll catch you guys next Friday. We'll talk about rocks. See ya.